So we'll start off this morning with a brief statement from Don Neubacher from the Yosemite National Park. He is the superintendent. Don.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to express this morning is my condolences to CAL FIRE and the family. As most of you know, this was a horrific event that occurred yesterday, and on behalf of the Park Service and also the wildfire community, we want to express our deepest sympathy to the family. And we'll talk a little bit more about the fire, but I think at this point in time, the most important thing is to get the body recovered off the hillside and pay respect to this individual that died doing his public service here in Yosemite National Park. And I do want to introduce Kelly Martin, who's the FMO for Yosemite National Park, and she wants to say a few words too.
Good morning. It's with deep sadness on behalf of the wildland fire community. I wish to express my sincere and deep condolences to CAL FIRE, the wildfire community, and to the family of the pilot that lost his life yesterday. We have many brave women and men on the fire lines even today that I'm hoping that we all keep your thoughts with them for their safe and effective conclusion to the Dog Rock fire. Thank you.
Darren Mills, the Deputy Chief of Operations for the Yosemite National Park, will now give an update on the fire itself. So, Chief.
Good morning. Yesterday I was the incident commander at the time of the incident with the air tanker that went down, and I managed the fire until sometime late last night. And what I thought I'd do is move over here to the map and give you a brief overview of what our overall strategy was yesterday, what progress we made, and what our tactics are for today. So bear with me. Not sure how that'll work with the map.
Any chance we move the map closer to the microphone?
Good idea.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'll do my best. So just to give you a few reference points, this is the main fork of the Merced River here, and the El Portal Road that runs along it, which is an extension of Highway 140, if you will, into the park. So that essentially is the bottom end of our fire. On the top end of the fire is a community of Foresta. It's approximately, don't quote me, 60 homes or so. It is an area that is prone to fire. It's had one that has threatened it already earlier this year. It is currently evacuated, and that was our highest priority for protection when we developed our strategy yesterday. The fire was moving with the wind up canyon from the west to the east, and our priority was to start up the left flank of the fire with direct fire line and retardant to buy us time to get troops in on the ground and hold that side of the fire. We were able to make some progress prior to the aircraft going down, and at that time that established some new fire, and we had to pull everybody out and off the line on the left flank. On the right flank, we moved up ahead of the fire to a rock scree slope at Archrock entrance station, and we were able to cut the brush out of that scree slope and tie it into a rock band. So hopefully that will remain our east perimeter and end of the fire. Up here on the Foresta side, we've got an old dozer line that was used during the Big Meadow fire in 2009, and we were able to put a hand line in there, and it runs across the ridge top down here to an area called Foresta Falls. And so that was completed last night. And with today's operations, hopefully we're going to be able to tie that box together, and essentially we'll have loose or shaky containment, if you will, around the fire. However, that will need to be burned out at a future time, maybe starting as early as tonight to meet our containment objectives. And just once again, I want to reiterate that our highest priority was to provide structure defense for the community of Foresta, and hence the aggressive attack that we made yesterday, both on the ground and by aircraft, both rotor wing and fixed wing. With that, I guess we'll take questions after, so thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. We'll turn it over now to Director Ken Pemlott, the Chief of CAL FIRE, to talk more about the accident itself. So, Chief.
Thank you and good morning. So just a brief timeline of events relative to the crash yesterday. Just before 4:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon, we lost contact with CAL FIRE Tanker 81, based out of our Hollister Air Attack Base in San Benito County. Tanker 81 had been assigned to fight the Dog Rock fire here in Yosemite National Park. Once contact was lost with the aircraft, an immediate accountability process was put into place. Yosemite National Park search and rescue crews were sent to the last known location where they confirmed the wreckage of the plane. Rescuers continued searching for the pilot in dense vegetation and steep terrain well into the evening. And just driving up here this morning, I think everyone can recognize the difficult terrain that not only this fire is in, but where this aircraft went down. And again, I cannot say enough about the National Park Service, particularly the staff here at Yosemite and their search and rescue crew, because they were not going to give up last evening as darkness fell in this very difficult terrain until they were able to reach the crash site and identify and confirm the status of the pilot. And we are extremely grateful for their efforts. The pilot was located just shortly after nightfall. Recovery efforts for the pilot from this remote location where he was found is continuing this morning. Out of respect for his family, we are withholding the release of the pilot's name until all of the immediate family members can be identified. And I can tell you we were working on this diligently last night. We have staff with all of the identified family members and are continuing to work on that outreach. And once we know and have permission from the family and we've confirmed that notifications have been made, we will make sure to get that additional information out to you. What I can tell you about the pilot is he was a veteran DynCorp International pilot under contract to CAL FIRE, been flying for us for over 13 years. And we treat our pilots, although it's a contract, it is a seamless operation, and we treat those pilots just as though, and they are firefighters, just as though they were CAL FIRE firefighters. Again, we've been engaged with his family since the incident occurred late yesterday afternoon, and we will continue to support his family through this difficult process. In addition to supporting the pilot's family and the fire service family as a whole, because this affects the entire firefighting community when we have this tragic loss, we will be cooperating with the National Transportation Safety Board and other members of the investigation as that critical piece goes forward. Specifically, I again wish to thank the Yosemite National Park, the National Park Service as a whole, the United States Forest Service, the California Highway Patrol, the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office, and the many, many other cooperators and the community members here. This pilot died serving the state, serving his community, and protecting the lives and property in and around the community of Foresta. We are, again, forever grateful for the support that we have been receiving here at this difficult time. With that, thank you.
So we'll go ahead and open it up to any questions that you might have. Like I said, more specifics on the fire itself afterwards. Gary will be available outside for one-on-one interviews. But yeah, we'll start here.
I was wondering if someone could give us a description of what the crews that were going to rescue were going, and the report that they had when they got to the scene of what they discovered. The condition of the aircraft and whatever else they feel comfortable sharing.
Michael, are you here? Michael, do you want to give a quick account of the search and rescue effort and also what they saw at the site? Michael, let me just do this very quickly. Michael, the search and rescue crew works for Michael Stansberry. He is the Deputy Chief Ranger at Yosemite National Park, and we'll give you a few details of what occurred, but that site, our crews left this morning at 7 o'clock. They hope to recover. There'll be 2 or 3 hours of investigation done on scene so we can document everything, and then the body will be removed at 10 o'clock. But do you want to give any details about the spread of the plane crash? Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. My name again is Michael Stansberry, Deputy Chief Ranger here at Yosemite. After the plane crashed, we had several units in different areas of the park that converged to try to get rescue efforts started. Several units were coming, two individuals were coming from the uphill side from Foresta, as well as several were coming from 140, from the highway. The crash site was almost a quarter-mile long, so please understand, because of the terrain and the amount of debris, it was very difficult to get in there safely, not only because of the amount of wreckage and the type of terrain, but also because there was active fire in the area. So our folks worked as hard as they could to get in and establish at least that we had some kind of effort to help if we could, and found that we could finally get to and confirm where the pilot was at nightfall. The pilot was near the wreckage, yes.
Can you describe the conditions at the time of the crash, the air, and if there was a mayday call?
I'm not aware if there was a mayday call. That will come out in the investigation. And the investigation is going to take several days at least. NTSB will be here shortly. They're having a briefing at 9 o'clock this morning in Mariposa, and will come up. The conditions at the time, obviously there was a lot of smoke in the air at the time. Outside of the fire area, it was clear and warm.
Is there any indication this could have been weather related, or maybe just the conditions of the steep terrain and these pilots flying in? What can you tell us about what you're looking into as far as the investigation goes?
Sure.
Yeah, and obviously this is an active investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board, and as the NTSB takes over that part of it, they will take the lead. So we don't want to say or do anything that may jeopardize that at this point, Brandy. But the other piece that I think is important to note as well, from that point and through the evening, we did ensure that there were CAL FIRE personnel at the site overnight with the pilot during this process of us being able today to recover him. So we'll go ahead and take another question, Claudia.
Can you tell us about the tanker? Did it have a history of mechanical maintenance? Were there any faults with the plane in the past?
Do you want to talk? Do you need the fact sheet, or are you good?
I got it. So everyone should have, or if you're not, we have fact sheets on the Grumman S2T turbine air tanker. And we've talked about this before. CAL FIRE had 23 of these aircraft in its fleet. They date back to 1958 when they were in service with the United States Navy as carrier-based aircraft. Through the Federal Excess Property Program, working with the federal government, these aircraft were made available to the state and completely retrofitted, and I mean completely rebuilt to essentially be new aircraft. And these particular aircraft were put into service with the final, in the early 2000s, with the final aircraft coming on board in 2005. They were repowered with turbine engines so that they would fly faster and perform better in our initial attack fire protection mission that we have. The aircraft go through a very aggressive maintenance program every year. They are rotated through our headquarters maintenance facility in Sacramento at McClellan Park, where they go through an annual maintenance program, and then they are deployed out to the various air attack bases across the state. Mechanics during the fire season period accompany those aircraft at the air bases or are immediately available, and all of the maintenance requirements take place either out in the field or they're brought back to headquarters for ongoing maintenance. I don't have a specific maintenance record for this aircraft for you, but I can tell you all of the aircraft are well within their maintenance cycle. We take that maintenance program very seriously. The program itself at CAL FIRE has received multiple awards from the Federal Aviation Administration for the quality and caliber of its program. So we feel very strongly about this aircraft. We are all going to wait patiently and allow the NTSB to do its job, to look at all of the factors and determine, ultimately, what led to this tragedy.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about what steps have to take place before the aircraft, the rest of the sister ships can go back into the air? And what happens if, heaven forbid, we have a bad fire before then?
Very good question. So we made a decision shortly after this incident last night that not knowing what occurred, that we provided a safety stand down for all of the remaining S2T fixed wing air tankers in CAL FIRE's fleet. We are evaluating all of the aircraft in the system this morning. We are also evaluating the status of all of our pilots this morning. We've made it very clear to our pilots that it will be their choice when and if the aircraft are available and certified to fly, and we make that determination. It will be their choice when they're ready. This is something we take very seriously. Ultimately, the pilot is in charge of the aircraft and make the ultimate decision as to whether or not they're going to fly. So we are, again, we're going to be taking our lead from the aviation experts as to where things may be going in terms of the incident here, to give us any indicators as to what we need to do in terms of making decisions for the remainder of the fleet. In the interim, with our partners at the Forest Service, they have moved 13 large air tankers into California, and are, as we speak, deploying those to areas in the state where we have greatest need. We also have 2 very large air tankers in the state, the DC-10s. We also have multiple call-when-needed helicopters that are in the state, and fortunately, California is about the only state left with any kind of significant fire season activities. So from a federal level, they have been able to move these resources in. So they will be providing that initial attack support for us around the state. We also have the ability, if we start getting large fire activity, we can activate the California National Guard. Either their helicopter rotary wing program as well as their fixed wing modular airborne firefighting or C-130 aircraft. So as of today, we are very comfortable with the assets in play and will continue to evaluate as this process plays out.
Was this his first drop or was it his second drop?
I don't have any information on the incident. Aircraft are typically assigned to an incident from initial attack. So from the very start time of this incident, aircraft were deployed. I don't have any information on how many missions he flew on the fire.
How long do we anticipate the stand down lasting?
Again, we're going to base that on several factors. One is us having a comfortable understanding of that we're comfortable putting the aircraft back in the air based on a number of factors. And 2, our status of our pilots. We want to make sure that the pilots are comfortable, that they're emotionally ready and physically ready to fly fire missions.
Chief, could you or Mr. Stansbury show us where the aircraft did go down yesterday?
Yeah, I think I don't know that we actually physically have that located on the map, and that may be, for me to speculate. I can tell you that it's areas, and folks that I think you've seen pictures, basically Highway 140 and to the north, and as was talked about, the wreckage is fairly long, but the specific location on the highway or down in that drainage, I don't have for you at this time.
Will grounding your remaining air tankers hurt your ability to fight this fire?
No, and again, I'll certainly defer to the Park Service and incident management staff for that, but as I talked about, we have plenty of additional aircraft in the system in California from the Forest Service, so any requests that they have for the incident will be placed through that system, and we don't anticipate any shortages.
And sir, a quick follow-up question for you. At this point, do you believe the pilot's vision could have been obstructed because of that smoke?
I don't want to speculate. I don't know.
Can you tell us how many planes were in the air during the time of the crash?
I don't know.
So, understanding and just again, driving up here today, air tankers are flying these missions every day in the state, in the diverse topography of California. They're going to be dealing with smoke, trees, terrain, power lines. all of the kinds of impacts that a pilot might have flying in and around California, and then you add in, literally these explosive fire conditions we've been seeing all year. Obviously, all of those are factors that pilots in the firefighting mission have to deal with that maybe an average aviation community doesn't, because of the low elevations, low altitudes they have to work with, and the coordination that they have to do on the ground. All of those things will be factors that will be evaluated as part of the NTSB investigation.
And it was 3 air tankers that you've now grounded?
No, CAL FIRE has 23 of the S2T tracker, so we've grounded the remaining 22 until we determine the prognosis.
How many air tankers or sort of comparable planes is the National Park Service using? Because you haven't grounded yours, if I'm not mistaken.
So understanding of the air tanker system, CAL FIRE, the state, operates 22 remaining S2T trackers that are in the state fleet, part of the state's initial attack force. In the federal system, there's a national aviation program that provide air tankers nationwide, and those aircraft are moved around the country based on need. Those have been essentially moved into California. We consider those large air tankers. A gallonage is oftentimes twice. Again, Grumman S2T is 1,200 gallons. The very large air, or the large air tankers typically are 2,500 gallons or more. And then we get into the very large air tanker, which is the DC-10, which is about 12,000 gallons.
Just to quantify, how many are now being used for this fire specifically?
I'd have to defer to instance 4. Currently, there are 4 assigned to the fire. And again, that's not based on a shortage. What that is based on the incident's need and request. Just because you don't see aircraft flying doesn't mean, 1, they're not available, or 2, there are a lot of reasons why aircraft are and are not used on any given day on an incident. And it's a tactical resource that we use very carefully, and they will use those aircraft if the firefighters and the folks in charge feel that it's tactically appropriate for the incident at that time. Well, I can certainly tell you he had a family, and because of that, that's why we're pending release, so we can get all of those individuals notified. Again, he was based out of our Hollister Air Attack Base. Beyond that, I don't have any additional information until we have an opportunity to circle back and get approval from the family.
The fire was, what I saw on the wire, it started a mile west of Yosemite National Park.
I'm going to...
Where did the plane go down? Is it inside, like crash inside Yosemite National Park?
I'm going to defer to the park specifics.
So I caught the second part of your question. It was flying within Yosemite National Park. It did go down within Yosemite National Park, but I missed the first part.
Where was the fire? Where did the fire start?
Oh, it's east of the park boundary. So between the park boundary and our Archrock entrance station. The park boundary itself is actually west of the gate that you go through to enter the park.
It's now burning in the national park as well, though.
Yes, and it's only burning on Park Service lands at this time.
What's the latest acreage?
210 acres. I'm sorry I didn't cover that on the map. 210 acres.
Containing?
0% contained.
As far as fire behavior today, do you expect to see the same thing you saw yesterday, behavior-wise?
Yep. The area of the fire, the Dog Rock, actually, that the fire's named after, is in an area called Windy Point. And it's an extreme bend in the river canyon, and it's named Windy Point for a reason. We get very strong daytime winds and very strong diurnal nighttime winds in that area.
How many houses right now?
Approximately 60.
You may have mentioned this before, but then the crash has caused some fire, and is that represented in the map, or am I wrong on that?
It is represented by the map. It's all been incorporated together.
There might have been a gap at some point between where did the plane end up within the fire?
Possibly, but I can't confirm.
And the Park Service is operating 4 air tankers now for this fire. How many were operating, though, before CAL FIRE grounded their fleet? Of the 23, how many were working on this fire?
I believe we had 4 air tankers total working. I think 2 were CAL FIRE assets, and I think 2 were operated by the Forest Service. Not completely sure on that. We did place an order last night for 4 air tankers, and all those orders were filled, as Chief Pimlott alluded to. We do have the DC-10. We grease the skids there, so it is at our ready if needed. But right now we've got 4 heavy air tankers owned and operated by the Forest Service.
And do you expect to fly them today?
Yes.
What was the cause of the fire?
The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
But it started right next to the highway?
It did.
Talk about the terrain where this plane went down. Are we talking about steep pitches, steep canyons? What kind of vegetation?
Are we okay with more fire questions, or? So it's extremely steep terrain. If you look outside here, it's as steep, if not steeper, but it's much more rockier. So it's extremely difficult to get people in, and as you can tell, the fire's somewhat hung up mid-slope, and it's not made it to the ridge top on the north side either. So there's really no place for firefighters to engage the fire directly. So they've had to, except for the flanks. So at some point, we're probably going to have to burn and bring the fire's edge to the fire lines that we've constructed, which is known as indirect fire line. And the firing of that operation could begin as early as tonight.